Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni. What really happened behind the scenes is shocking and explosive, from secret texts to manipulations that turned allies into enemies. The truth about the premiere and the battle over the film cut is finally coming to light. Stay with me, because everything you thought you knew about this Hollywood feud is about to be completely shattered. You won't believe who lied, who was manipulated, and what this means for everyone involved. The story behind the Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni controversy continues to unravel in ways that are as shocking as they are complicated, and what makes this situation even more explosive is the way personal narratives and professional boundaries have collided, turning what should have been a straightforward film production into a whirlwind of courtroom testimony, leaked texts, and public opinion battles. So when we look at the situation with Blake and the way she positioned herself in the production, it becomes clear that there is a pattern of influence and manipulation that she exercised not only over the cast, but also over the author Colleen Hoover, who became caught in a web of misinformation and misdirection from the very beginning of this production, as Blake claimed she had been wronged by Justin and used that as a justification to attempt to take control over aspects of the movie that were never intended to be under her authority. This includes decisions over edits, script changes, and promotional material, and even extends to who attends premieres and how credits are displayed. So in the court documents and the depositions, we start seeing how Colleen Hoover was essentially pulled into a narrative constructed by Blake, and how the events that unfolded, including the infamous premiere, where certain cast members refused to appear next to Justin, were directly influenced by the information and claims that Blake had fed to them, even though those claims were often misleading or completely fabricated. And the core of the dispute seems to center around Blake's dissatisfaction with her level of creative control, as she believed that as a woman in Hollywood, she deserved to be elevated and amplified by the director, when in fact the film was always intended to be Justin Baldoni's creative vision. This clash over authority and recognition led to Colleen Hoover feeling pressured and manipulated to make decisions based on incomplete or false information, leading her to avoid promotional events and to speak negatively about the situation to media contacts, creating a ripple effect of confusion and tension that ultimately ended up in the court filings. And what makes this even more intriguing is the pattern of love bombing and emotional manipulation that Blake allegedly used to create alliances and to position herself as the center of influence, which has been repeatedly documented through text messages and deposition testimony, showing how different parties, including agents and production staff, tried to navigate the misinformation while attempting to protect themselves from public scrutiny and reputational harm. The constant shifting of narratives and blame between Blake and Colleen highlights not only the fragility of trust in these high-stakes environments, but also the intricate ways in which personal grievances can be leveraged to exert control and influence over professional outcomes, all of which paints a portrait of a production plagued not simply by creative disagreements, but by strategic maneuvering and power plays that escalated into the legal disputes we are witnessing now. And as we follow the evidence, we see how the premiere and associated events were not isolated incidents, but a culmination of months of interpersonal manipulation, and how these actions directly impacted the behavior and perception of everyone involved, from the cast and crew to the author, and ultimately the studio itself, revealing the delicate and often volatile nature of collaboration in Hollywood projects, where personal ambition and professional responsibilities collide, creating a chain reaction that can have far-reaching consequences that extend well beyond the initial disagreements and into the realm of public perception, legal scrutiny, and media coverage, leaving all parties scrambling to defend their version of events, while simultaneously trying to maintain their public images in a situation that continues to evolve and unfold in real time. And what makes this particularly compelling is that every new piece of evidence, whether text messages, deposition testimony, or leaked communications, adds a new layer of complexity, challenging previous narratives and forcing a re-examination of what actually happened behind the scenes, and how intentions and perceptions can become completely misaligned when power dynamics, trust, and personal agendas are in play, creating a drama that is as riveting as any scripted story, but far more impactful because it is happening in real life in front of cameras and court reporters, while fans and followers dissect every detail, generating endless conversations, speculation, and suspense over what will happen next in this ongoing saga of Hollywood intrigue, manipulation, and legal confrontation. As the court filings reveal, it becomes impossible to ignore the contradictory stories between Blake Lively and Colleen Hoover, and the ways in which these contradictions serve to heighten tension and drama, because while Blake insists that she did not encourage anyone to act against Justin or spread negative information about the production. The deposition testimony and communication record suggest a very different narrative, one where she actively influenced Colleen and others to question and undermine Justin's authority and decisions, creating a situation where professional boundaries were blurred and the line between personal vendetta and professional criticism was entirely obscured. And what adds an extra layer of suspense to this case is the way that Colleen Hoover's own actions are being scrutinized and reinterpreted in light of the new evidence. Because while she claims to have acted independently, it is clear from the documentation that she was heavily influenced by Blake's messaging and that her decisions were often guided by fear of being caught in the crossfire of celebrity power dynamics, which meant that her attempts to navigate the premiere and the promotional events were made under significant pressure and emotional duress. And the legal filings go into painstaking detail to illustrate how these interactions and manipulations created an environment where no party could act with full clarity or autonomy, highlighting the intense psychological and social pressures present in Hollywood productions, and demonstrating how even minor actions or statements can become amplified into major conflicts with career and reputational consequences. And it is in this context that the narrative surrounding the film edits and control over the production becomes so pivotal, because the dispute was never truly about the content of the film itself, but rather about who held the power to define and shape it, and how recognition and credit would be allocated between key players. And the documentation and testimony show that Blake's efforts to assert influence over the cut and presentation of the film went well beyond normal professional advocacy and entered the realm of personal vendetta, with a strategic effort to manipulate allies and control outcomes. And what is particularly shocking and suspenseful for viewers is the way the deposition testimony and texts reveal the timing and coordination of these efforts, showing not just isolated incidents but a pattern of behavior that unfolded over months with calculated intent, and that this pattern included not only her direct communications with Colleen Hoover and the cast, but also careful management of agents, studio executives, and media contacts to ensure that her perspective was dominant and that any dissenting voices were mitigated or redirected, creating an intricate web of narrative control that is now being dissected and exposed in court. And the drama here is intensified because as the story unfolds, the stakes remain high, with the potential for long-lasting consequences for all parties involved, from lost career opportunities to damaged reputations to ongoing legal liability. And what keeps audiences glued to this narrative is the sense that at any moment, new revelations could dramatically shift perceptions and understanding of the events. Because every document, every text, every deposition adds a new twist to the story and reveals motivations and actions that were previously hidden, allowing us to follow the unraveling of a high-profile Hollywood conflict in real time and witness the intersection of personal ambition, professional rivalry, and media manipulation. And as we follow this story, we are reminded of how fragile professional relationships can be in environments where power, influence, and control are contested, and how easily these conflicts can escalate into public spectacles that draw intense scrutiny and create lasting divisions between collaborators who were once aligned in their creative goals, making this more than just a legal case but a cautionary tale about trust, power, and the consequences of strategic manipulation in high-stakes professional settings. The tensions surrounding the Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni dispute also extends into the public sphere, where media coverage and leaked documents have created a constant feedback loop, intensifying the drama and shaping perceptions in ways that further complicate the legal and interpersonal dynamics. Because as evidence emerges, the interpretations of actions and intentions are debated across social media forums, industry commentary, and mainstream reporting, creating multiple layers of narrative that influence how parties behave and communicate. And the court filings show in detail how Blake Lively and Colleen Hoover engaged in a series of communications designed to assert influence over these narratives, shaping what was reported and how it was framed to external audiences. And the stakes are compounded by the involvement of multiple intermediaries, including agents, studio executives, and reporters who each interpret and relay information with their own biases and agendas, creating a complex ecosystem of influence and counter-influence, where actions are constantly scrutinized, misinterpreted, or amplified. And this is where the suspense and drama become palpable, because each new revelation potentially alters the trajectory of the conflict, affecting not only the immediate legal case but also long-term career trajectories, public reputations, and professional relationships in the film industry. and the documentation reveals how Blake's efforts to control perceptions included careful coordination of messages and strategic engagement with allies to ensure that her perspective was privileged over others, and how these actions directly affected Colleen Hoover's decisions and testimony, highlighting the interplay between personal influence and professional responsibility. And as the court records demonstrate, the lines between collaboration and manipulation were consistently blurred, as the production became a battleground for control, recognition, and narrative dominance. And what keeps the audience riveted is the realization that even small decisions regarding premiere script edits or promotional participation were fraught with tension and potential consequences, because the underlying power struggles and personal grievances shaped every interaction, and each action was part of a broader strategy that now provides a dramatic insight into the complexities of high-stakes Hollywood productions and legal disputes, and how the intersection of personal ambition, professional rivalry, and media manipulation can create a perfect storm of conflict and intrigue with ripple effects that extend far beyond the initial points of disagreement, creating a saga that is as compelling as any scripted drama, but infinitely more unpredictable because it is unfolding in real time. With all the unpredictability of human behavior and high-stakes negotiation, we consider the contract stipulations surrounding the film edits, the scoring metrics, and the respective influence of Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, it becomes apparent that the dispute over creative control and promotional presence was less about personal grievances and more about leverage and recognition, because Blake's insistence on influencing edits and credits and her orchestration of Colleen Hoover's participation in these decisions highlights a sophisticated understanding of narrative power and how perception can be shaped both internally within the production and externally through media exposure. And the depositions and text messages further illustrate how these dynamics played out in a high-pressure environment where every decision was scrutinized and every action had potential repercussions, and the conflict over the premiere and promotional appearances was emblematic of the larger struggle over authority and visibility in the project. And what makes this so dramatic and suspenseful for the audience is the realization that these are not isolated miscommunications, but part of a deliberate pattern of strategic positioning and influence that has real-world implications for the professional reputations and legal responsibilities of everyone involved, from the actors and the author to the studio executives and publicists. And as each new piece of evidence is analyzed, it becomes clear that the story is much more complex than the initial report suggested, because the legal filings show that Colleen Hoover's decisions were heavily influenced by Blake's narratives, and that attempts to mediate these conflicts involved multiple layers of coordination and persuasion, highlighting the intricate interplay of personal ambition, creative authority, and narrative control. And the ongoing court proceedings continue to peel back the layers of this conflict, revealing new dimensions of manipulation, influence, and strategic decision-making that keep viewers engaged, because every deposition, every text message, every piece of evidence has the potential to shift perceptions and change the stakes, creating a narrative that is at once shocking, suspenseful, and deeply revealing about the nature of power and trust in high-stakes creative collaborations. And as the saga continues to unfold, audiences are left on edge, eagerly anticipating what the next revelation might be and how it will reshape the relationships, reputations, and outcomes for all the parties involved in this high-stakes drama that blurs the lines between personal ambition, professional responsibility, and public perception. Even though the conflict between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni seems at first glance to revolve around creative differences and personal grievances, the deeper analysis of court filings, text messages, and deposition testimony reveals a far more complex web of influence, manipulation, and strategic positioning, because Blake's efforts to control both narrative and outcome went beyond standard professional advocacy and entered the realm of interpersonal manipulation, where allies were cultivated and narratives were carefully constructed to shape perception and behavior. And what makes this case particularly compelling is the way Colleen Hoover's involvement serves as a microcosm for the larger dynamics at play, because her decisions and reactions were heavily influenced by Blake's messaging, creating an environment where professional boundaries and personal motivations became dangerously intertwined. And the evidence also shows how timing, coordination, and selective disclosure were used to influence outcomes in ways that were not always transparent or ethical, highlighting the intricate dance of power and influence that defines this dispute. And the public dimension of this conflict, amplified through media leaks and social commentary, adds another layer of complexity because public perception now interacts with legal realities, influencing behavior, decision-making, and reputational stakes at every turn, and the suspense in this unfolding story lies in the unpredictability of human behavior under pressure, combined with the high stakes of celebrity, creative control, and legal accountability, where every new piece of evidence has the potential to dramatically alter the landscape. And the ongoing court proceedings continue to reveal how actions and intentions can diverge, narratives can be manipulated, and alliances can shift rapidly, creating a dramatic, suspenseful, and shocking real-life saga that captivates viewers, while simultaneously providing an intricate look into the intersection of personal ambition, professional collaboration, and public perception in Hollywood. And as each deposition, communication, and filing is dissected, it becomes increasingly clear that the story of Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni, and Colleen Hoover is far from settled, and that the consequences of these interactions will likely reverberate for years to come, both legally and professionally, leaving audiences riveted by the complexity, drama, and suspense of a real-life narrative that continues to evolve in unexpected and shocking ways. In conclusion, the Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni saga is more than just a Hollywood dispute. It is a case study in influence manipulation and the fragile dynamics of trust and control in high-stakes creative environments. Because the legal filings and deposition testimony reveal that what appears to be a dispute over creative differences is in fact a multi-layered conflict involving narrative control, interpersonal strategy, and the management of public perception. From the very beginning, Blake Lively positioned herself as a central figure, exerting influence over cast members and key collaborators, including Colleen Hoover, whose actions and testimony were heavily guided by misinformation and strategic messaging, which created a cascade of consequences, impacting promotional events, premiere attendance, media reporting, and internal studio decision-making. And the patterns revealed through text messages, court documents, and deposition testimony demonstrate how deliberate manipulation and influence can escalate conflicts from professional disagreements into full-blown legal battles with high stakes for all parties involved. Furthermore, the ongoing court proceedings continue to reveal contradictions between the accounts of Blake Lively, Colleen Hoover,